Our next speaker believes the meaning of life is to find your gift. Your purpose of life is to give it away. Inspired author, speaker, and success coach, MaryAnn lives her life with purpose and passion. She shares her gift of love with family, friends, and all those around her. We welcome our next speaker, MaryAnn Adams.
Okay, thank you, my wonderful friends, and thank you for welcome me. Forget that. That was not part of my speech, but thank you for having me part of your group. The meaning of life. Life actually brings lots of experiences to us that make us think, why in the world did that happen? Who has ever had an illness they thought they were absolutely going to not live from? Who has had an experience that made their life a total catastrophe and said, why in the world did this happen to me? Everything fell apart. This was not expected. This happened to me when I was 5 years old. I did not live in an urban family. In fact, I lived in a very small town in Idaho of 250 people. That's including the horses and the cows there. With that, I was very small at 5 years old. And the doctor said, don't worry, she's really small. So she weighs 25 pounds. Oh, she'll grow out of it. It's okay. One day I got really sick, and my family doctor was not in town. So my mom took me to just the new doctor in town. And that new doctor said, listen, you have to get her to the hospital as quickly as you can. She has heart problems, and she has to get into the hospital immediately. So we took her. There was no hospital that would take me in little small town Idaho. That was Declo, Burley's next there. Even Idaho Falls didn't have a hospital that would take me. I had to be carted clear up to Salt Lake City and down to Salt Lake City, and my relatives laugh at that. Down to Salt Lake City and to Primary Children's Hospital. I was admitted immediately to the hospital. First thing I said is, I do not like shots, and I cried all day long. That was the least of my problems. But I did have a good time playing Barbies with the other little girl next to me. So I played Barbies and had a good time that evening with all the shots and everything. The next day, had surgery. And it was open heart surgery. And that's why nobody else would take me. In the early 1960s, open heart surgery was not a common thing. It was still pioneer medicine. And things went pretty well. They said, she got patent ductus. She got an extra tube in her heart. That makes the blood go inside the heart, whip around in the heart and both sections, and rarely come out. So it was just circulating within the heart, and only small amounts of nutrients were able to go into the body. So they took out this extra tube and patched me up, and I survived the surgery. I was asking the next day in recovery, or when I was able to talk, and say, what happened to the little girl? I want to play Barbies with her. MaryAnn, she didn't live. She had open heart surgery also, and she didn't live. I wondered about that the rest of my life. Well, why was my life saved and this other little girl was not? For the next 40 years, I wondered, why in the world did my life get saved? Because for the next 40 years, I lived through lots of difficult circumstances where I said, God, just please take me home because I don't want to live in this anymore. Why wasn't I taken home when I was 5? This is meaningless. Abuse is not something that you want to live through, especially not for 30 years of marriage. And when I went to that point, I said, what else can go wrong? And something else did go wrong. My husband at the time was sent to prison for doing terrible things to my foster teenage girl. And life totally fell apart. I said, there is no way this life is going to get any worse. Why am I alive? I can't imagine. Well, I had zero self-esteem, very little self-confidence, And one day I was at the singles activity and said, I have very little friends. My life is just going to continue to end up the way it was going already. And I said, okay, just please make me beautiful. That's all I ask. If I have to live, make me beautiful. Because I didn't feel very good about myself. Well, it was amazing that my daughter knew all about how to make people beautiful. So I went home and said, Marissa, will you please show me how to use makeup? And will you show me how to do my hair and cut it so that it can be in a nice style? And show me how to wear some decent clothes. Because I was just surviving life at that moment in time. So I learned in the next 2 years, I learned how to release codependency, so I didn't attract those kind of men anymore. I learned how that beauty is not on the outside. You can decorate it and you can make it look nice, but it really glows from the inside out. And from that moment on, I started living a totally different life. I started dating all kinds of wonderful men and attracting the right ones. And I met this absolutely marvelous one. And finally, I could say, you know what? I think I finally understand my life and why I have meaning. I then understood from the last few years of this marriage in 5 years that my life is to help other people to understand their gifts and their beauty from the inside out. I am now a published author explaining just how you can do that, how to let go of the old ways of thinking and create a new life. And this is the gift that I share with others. Thank you.